The end of the Klaus saga. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed, the story DLC for Xenoblade 3 has released, and I have beaten it. It's a game of change, experimentation, and high emotional resonation, so let's get into my full spoiler review with one short step. Let's kick it off with the characters, and God, I was not anticipating liking Matthew this much. We didn't get a lot of time with him, as his DLC felt like it was slightly shorter than Torna, at least main story-wise, but the character of Matthew is so strong that even with the limited screen time we got with him, his go-get-em, punch-first, never-bother-asking-questions-later attitude was a really fun protagonist to have this story told around. A complemented him perfectly, adding a sense of mystery to the nature of the Ontos core crystal, while serving as a good personality for Matthew to bounce off of. Glimmer and Nickel are solid. They don't blow me away in the character development aspect, but again, time constraints are a thing here, and for what we got, they added to the story in pleasurable ways. The dynamic between Nickel and Glimmer was just simply heartwarming, and it was a great time just watching these two interact and bounce off each other, while Shulk and Rex awkwardly try to act like fathers without alerting Nickel or Glimmer to that either. It wasn't the most original dynamic ever, but it didn't need to be. And I don't think that has to be a negative thing. These characters truly shone through and made each scene they were in better for their inclusion. I mean, what else needs to be said about Shulk and Rex? They felt like matured versions of their characters, and I was particularly fond of how they handled Rex. I loved his little storyline he had going, with being a tad overcautious, considering that in Xenoblade 2, numerous characters died because of his overconfidence and reckless abandon. So he overcompensates at his older age, so that those mistakes aren't repeated and he doesn't lose more of the people that he loves. He has a new voice to this go around, and while Al Weaver will always be the voice I associate with Rex at first, I think this new one does a great job of portraying an older, wiser Rex while still feeling like our salvager. We didn't get much with Niall, mainly those in-between chapter flashbacks, but for her story, we get just enough where I'd say I still like the character. She offers an interesting perspective and adds to the overall theme of Future Redeemed, being that it's wrong to abandon people just so you, yourself, can march into the future because you aren't learning from the past, and you're going to be doomed to repeat it. Again, not the most original theme, but it doesn't need to be when it's told this well and through characters that are this compelling. I was kind of here or there with N up to the finale. He was just kind of fine up to that point and what I expected. You know, wanting to protect the Endless now, but in the finale, when he teamed up with the Liberators to defeat Alpha, he shone through just a bit more. Makes me like him as a character just that little bit more, even though he was already one of my favorite antagonists in the series. Alpha was a great villain to wrap up the Klaus saga. That one last perspective that we needed. Someone willing to throw everything and everyone else away to move into the future with no regard about the path we walked. Felt threatening, looked visually incredible, while eliciting great callbacks to Xenoblade 1. I really appreciated what this character ended up doing and brought the whole thing full circle, which is something that will be brought up multiple times later, don't worry. Okay, so let's transition over to the gameplay real quick, and honestly, my thoughts about the overall gameplay loop from my first impression still hold true, and, link in the description. They are testing a series of gameplay reversions to fall more in line with the feel of Xenoblade X's gameplay loop, and they tested out different gameplay styles in base game 3 and in Future Redeemed, probably to see which one resonated more with people. Especially in terms of the open world and exploration, I feel those are very positive direction choices. They make the world feel fuller, as it has secrets that just lie behind every corner, and that they all lead into this affinity point system in the game, which makes for a great feeling of overall progression as you develop your entire party to your own style and what you prioritize by being rewarded for the types of activities you want to pursue. The gameplay felt way more in-depth and interesting, especially when it comes to customization progression, and that was something I really appreciated and wish they would reinvest into a mainline game. I think the actual affinity talents are rather lackluster and boring for the most part, as they kind of default to plain percentage increases or just quicker cooldowns and arts, which is fine, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to blow my socks off, right? It's not going to get me feeling like it's first thing in the morning on a Sunday, we got pancakes on the grill. Yeah, it's not going to do anything special for me. There's some interesting passes we get this time around that round out the feeling of each character, and unlocking new arts at the beginning does feel rewarding, but then it's just number increases, and that's when they really start to dull to me. Flesh this out, give me a plethora of different arts to slot in or out, and other talents that modify my gameplay actively that I have to think about, not just activate and forget. And I feel that would be the next step to take with fleshing out Xenoblade's progression. Getting additional art slots as overworld upgrades by finding them is interesting at first, and I think there's some value there for having that unlock system for accessories and gems and skills, but for art specifically, I feel like it dragged out a bit too long, where too many characters felt boring to play for too long simply due to a lack of arts or fusions. But the iteration on the fusion system and the union attack system is 100% a system that I want to see fleshed out. The customization is amazing, and I want further incentive to mix and match, as I kind of just defaulted to one build and felt no reason to ever really alter it. Lean into that level of customization some more, and I think they really got something going here. The zone design is beautiful. The zone music is a great match, as I found myself just wandering around, taking in the sights. Aurora Shelf at night being my standout, with the large Sophronia tree illuminating the zone from the center and on high. It's a great visual spectacle, and I love that. Revisiting Colony 9 was a great way to bring the series full circle again, and there's a ton of throwbacks to 1 in that regard, and I love them all. Speaking on the music again, real quick, it should be against some kind of international law to have a song as perfectly executed and placed as Future Awaits. That song changed my entire opinion on the ending. The more and more I listen to it, it's stupidly incredible. I can't stop listening to it. And I may hold a record for most re-listens for that song alone. I'm at least top 100. It's the perfect capstone for the Klaus saga, and its overlying theme of moving into the future. Oh my god, those flutes that came in. The way the song just builds and swells, I can't get over how good it is. Probably my second or third favorite ending theme, right there alongside One Last You and A Moment of Eternity. And that's saying something considering how much nostalgia I have for those two songs. I know I'm talking a lot about this song, but it deserves the recognition and probably a video all of its own, because I totally nailed the idea that it's a song from Takahashi's perspective to us, the player, and when I listen to the song from that perspective, it hits even harder. Now the actual story. Kind of by the numbers until the ending. I mean, if you read the Founders Room statues, it basically just spelled out what we did in this DLC. For the most part. Again, up until Chapter 5. But with Alpha being this interesting menace. I think much like Torna, the real star of this DLC, story-wise, is the final chapter. Chapter 5, top to bottom, is one of the wildest experiences in all of Xenoblade. Going into Alpha's memories of Klaus's world, again going full circle with the narrative. Perfect resolution for Niall and Matthew. Great segue into Xenoblade 3 with N. They made Lucky 7, the Fist of the End, and the Sword of the End, incredibly interesting with the fist containing Numa's core crystal. And we presume Logos, or Logos' shards, are in End's sword. Yeah, Logos' core crystal technically broke, but I just write it off as they use the data in the other two to repair it like Malice did into. I don't think it's something that needs to be, thought about all that much, since it could also just be the shards of Malice's core crystal, since we never actually saw it. We just assume from the color and the fact that the fist had Numa. Lucky 7 being composed of the memories from the party of Xenoblade 1. Jesus Christ, what a great way to bring emotional stakes into just Lucky 7, and a way to make me give a crap about that blade. And again, for the story of Xenoblade to come full circle, with our cast from 1 coming back to give us a helping hand as Lucky 7. At least in base game 3, it recontextualizes all of 3 in that regard. Like, we expected some recontextualizations for 3 story, and we got them, and I love it all the more for it. I saw on Twitter some theories that there's another leap of faith you could take, considering Rex and Shulk's sword also cut flame clocks, so they might contain the memories of their respective parties as well in their swords, which is a great little touch. It's information you don't need, but if you have it, then it makes those moments all the better. Xenoblade 3 had a lot of unanswered questions, and it still does, but I think having unanswered questions doesn't necessarily mean it's an issue. They could be brought up in the future, or just within the scope of the story being told for Xenoblade 3 and Ionios as a whole. Maybe those questions just aren't all that important in the grand scheme of things, and I tend to lean in that regard. I think the information we have right now is sufficient, and do I think the story of base Xenoblade 3 may have been potentially compromised so they could recontextualize stuff in the DLC? Sure. I think Riku being a big contender here, since his story didn't go anywhere in the base game, but we get that information at least mostly here. But again, I think the narrative of 3 is so strong by itself that it's just a matter of do we compromise the pacing to address these questions that, to be honest, don't need answering. Sure, you could do it in side quests, but again, I don't think the state of having unanswered questions necessarily means that the story itself is worse out because of it. Now, I've talked about the post-credit scene quite a bit, and I've really warmed up to it the last couple of days compared to my initial impression, And while it will always suck having first beat Future Redeemed and feeling disappointed in that ending, I think the emotional journey of coming around to actually accept and appreciate it could be part of the story as well. So yeah, I'd rather find an interpretation that I like and come around to the ending than never liking it at all. And the finale for Rex, Shulk, and A, I mean, come on. Like, I expected something like this to happen, but again, that execution, it was freaking chef's kiss. Mwah! Execution was so good, the cinematography was immaculate, the use of color provocative, the lighting, oh my god, the lighting. And how all these characters' stories just came to a head here, and they sacrificed themselves to prop up Ionios to give us enough time for Xenoblade 3, so that we can put everything back to its proper course. It was just great. Loved it. I do wish the DLC was longer though. I really do. It was short and really high quality, but it does make me wish there was just more to it. Main story-wise, I firmly believe that this plot could have been expanded on, turned into a fully fleshed out Xenoblade game. Like, this could have been Xenoblade 3. I would have loved it if the Klaus world was a full zone or something, but hey, I still really loved what we got. And as a package, I think Future Redeemed, while short, is one of the most well-constructed top-to-down packages in Xenoblade, and that is freaking saying something. Strong characters with a strong world, music that just submerges you in an ocean of transcendent greatness, really fun gameplay and customization on top of progression, makes Future Redeemed one of my favorite Xenoblade experiences, and in my opinion, a dang near perfect way to end this chapter of Xenoblade, while making me optimistic and excited for what the future has in store for the series. So yeah, that's my review of Future Redeemed for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And hit the bell icon to be notified for when I upload in the future. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody.